Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about healthcare in Southeast Asia and healthcare in general as it relates to retirement. As you know, the biggest problem for any retiree is whether or not they can retire and have enough money to cover themselves if they have some kind of catastrophic event in their health. And you know that your health is the most important thing as you kind of in your retirement years. That's why everybody talks about having these go-go years. That's why so many people on YouTube are saying like retire at 55. And to me, I've been looking so much at, should you retire at 55? Should you retire later? And I'm now very thoroughly confused. I think everybody's different naturally. And everybody has different financial status. But if, say, for example, you have enough money to retire, should you retire earlier? Or are you just going to be so bored out of your mind that you're going to go back to working? So to me, the most important thing is when you're in the time when you're the most healthiest is the time when you should retire. But you need to prepare for the event that as you get older, you're going to really slow down. So there's this concept I've been told, and I know CFPs have talked about it as well. It's called the retirement smile. So you tend to spend a lot more at the beginning of your life cycle of retirement, and it slowly tapers off, and pretty much you're just kind of existing. Now, I know firsthand that is an actual use case because my father said the same thing. He's already retired, and at the beginning, I remember when I was a little bit younger, in my younger years, they were traveling everywhere. I mean, my parents, I remember dropping them off at the Brooklyn Naval Yard because they were on a trip around the world on I think it was a Queen Mary or one of these large Cunard ships. But then in the subsequent years, now I'm older, I'm 55, and they were doing that when I was in my 40s. They don't go out at all. All they do is, in fact, it's almost a little bit, to me, a little sad because they're living a very sedentary life. They stay at home and they go to the YMCA and exercise, and it's great. I saw them last week. They're very healthy, but I feel very sorry for them because they're not really doing much. And they don't need my pity, naturally, but I think that's a function of the fact that they just can't move. So when you're thinking about retirement and when you're thinking about that portion of your lifespan, you got to think about what is it going to cost to take care of yourself if something happens? And so that brings me to hear about Thailand. See, Thailand and Vietnam, from what I hear, they're fairly advanced countries, despite the fact of what their political problems were in the past. And also, don't even believe the movies like, One Night in Bangkok or those, what is it, Hangover 2 or one of those. Yes, those things are kind of true about Bangkok, but there's a whole other world that is not that. And you shouldn't get the idea that Bangkok's like this crazy third world country or that there's these bunch of Viet Cong running around with AKs or, trying to stir up communist ideal, all those things from Full Metal Jacket or Apocalypse Now. Great stories, but that is not Southeast Asia of today. In fact, Southeast Asia, and as much as I'm starting to sound like a commercial, is extremely advanced. So much so that when I go around in Bangkok as a kind of not from this country, I was so astonished at one, how clean it was, two, how advanced it was, and three, how everything just works together despite the commotion that is happening. If you look today on the news, you will not see anything about the United States in full functioning order. I don't know if that's because of the way our media is or whatnot. But I can tell you that the biggest concern for any retiree is healthcare, and healthcare in the United States is an abomination. So I want to give you two examples today. The first example is an MRI. I went to Chinatown in an area called Songwat Road. And Songwat Road is this really very trendy area like in New York City. It's sort of like Soho or the meatpacking district. But there's a lot of hospitals. They're just there. It's very strange. And they're not massive like in the United States where these massive complexes like Cedars-Sinai. They're big environments, but they just happen to be embedded with the rest of the community. You can just walk into the hospital, and I did this. I walked in, and in the front is just like in an office space where there is just like a desk. And I just asked the lady up front, I said, excuse me, I'd like to know if I can talk to the doctor, and what does it take to get an MRI? And I'm sitting there talking to her and using my translator app from, on the phone. And her colleague is not, she wasn't very good with English, but her colleague was a little bit better. So she asked her colleague what I was really saying, and the colleague starts talking to me, and then she translated to the lady what I had said, and the lady's like, "Oh yeah, you can go right now." And then she calls upstairs to find out whether or not the doctor's there to see me right then, like immediately. And I was like, wait a second, I'm just here to find out if I can get an MRI. She says, oh, you can go right now. And she says, the doctor's here today. The cost is $30. And I said, oh, really? And I said, what about the MRI? And she says, well, it depends on what it is. And I said, well, I have some kind of neck compression here. And I told her that I had gotten an MRI a few weeks ago in New York. And she said, oh, okay, are you sure about that? And she said, yeah. I said, yes. And so she goes and calls upstairs and tells her what I had said, tells the person upstairs what I had said. And sure enough, she says, well, you can go upstairs right now. The cost to be the equivalent of $600 US. I was like, wow, that's incredible, because what costed me in the United States, and I will show you my bill. It's, as I'm doing this video, I'm doing this ad hoc, by the way. I'm not using any script. I will show you the bill right now. And the cost equivalent was in Thailand was what I stated, about $630. It would have been done all day. Now, just imagine if that was something else. If you came in for some kidney thing or something else, I'm sure it would have been the same kind of response. Now, here's a second thing. So, dental care. When I was in the United States before I came into Thailand, I found a local practitioner in Bangkok, and I emailed them to find out if I could make an appointment. And they emailed me back and said, yes, you can come in. I told them my schedule when I'm staying in Bangkok, and they said, okay, you can come in on Saturday. And I arrived on Wednesday. So I went to the dentist. It's called Thangkit Dental something. I have the receipts, and I actually want to show you those receipts. So I went in there, and dentist offices even in the United States are typically very nice. Most of my dentists have just like a one-floor office. This is an entire building. This entire building was that dentist practitioner, and they did everything. Everything is one-stop shop. So you can get your teeth cleaned. If you have surgery, it's on a different floor. If you have other kinds of facial reconstruction for teeth, it's on another floor. Everything was in this building. So I went in there to get my teeth cleaned, and it was the most pristine, environment. It was, even in the United States, it's nice, but to me, this was a little bit better, I thought, because it was completely it was a clean room. And so she had me sit down in the chair, and she did my cleaning and told me, oh, your teeth are fine, but you're grinding your gums or whatever. It's the same diagnosis I got even in the United States. But she wasn't going to charge me for sitting in the seat. She says the cost to clean your teeth is going to be $50 or something. I'll look it up right now on the sheet. And I said, yes, that's what I'm here for. And then she said, oh, okay, fine. So I'm going to clean your teeth. So she cleaned my teeth right there. I walk back. After she's done, she walks me back to the lobby. I briefly said goodbye. But I did ask her with this one question. I said to her, why didn't you do my x-rays? Now, she took that as a little bit of insultingly, like, you missed a step. And I think she was taken a little bit aback. And I said, oh, no, I'm just curious. In the United States, it always seems that when you go to the dentist, they want you to take an x-ray. And she says, oh, well, if you like, I can give you an x-ray, but I don't think you need an x-ray right now because unless you have some kind of damage. And she says, I don't want to charge you unnecessarily. That's what she says to me. I don't want to charge you unnecessarily. And I was like really shocked by that statement. And I said to her, oh, because in the US they always do. And she says, oh yeah, maybe they want to charge you more money. And so I'm like, these people get it. So look at the contrast of health services. Here in Southeast Asia, it just seems like the physicians are, not the physicians in the United States aren't this way, but I think the fact that they're part of that engine, the machine of insurance, and the way our healthcare system is constructed in the framework that's developed there is different than here in Thailand. Here, they're doctors first, and they want to help their patients. And naturally, they have to get paid, but it's not like it's this money-making kind of engine that they have to adhere to. On top of which, I'm not quite sure about the insurance, how that works here. You can get insurance, but it's not like you have to have insurance in order to get health care. You go to the United States, you can't get that. Like my MRI, the bill, if I recall, and I showed you the bill just now, it was $4,000 to the insurance company, of which $600 is my responsibility. $600 or $400. See, I could not get that $400 rate unless I had the insurance. I have a good feeling that if I didn't have insurance, that MRI would be costing me $4,000. So therein lies the big problem. It's like, without insurance, you cannot get the group this lower rate of $600. But all along the way, you're paying as you're going because you're paying your premiums, on top of which you probably have some deductible before they fully pay out everything. I guess specialized kinds of exams like this are paid for, but if you don't have the insurance, you're not going to get tended to. So this is not like a full, thorough experiment, and I didn't have a condition to go into to be checked. Now, I'm now in a different part of Thailand. Maybe if I have some time today, this week, I will go to a local hospital here just to get a checkup, just to get blood work, and I'll let you know how much that costs as a part 2. But there will be another video I will do because I am going back to Bangkok, and I will do a video, if I can't do it here, of myself getting blood work done, and I will tell you what the cost will be. So hopefully this will give you some sense of what healthcare is like here in Southeast Asia. Naturally, I can't speak to the really high-ticket items because I don't have that situation. But I will say this. I did look up long-term care costs here in Thailand. If you go, as part of your retirement structuring, you know that long-term care is a big component of what will deplete your funds in retirement. My software, Bolden, tells me that, that's a major thing you have to fund for. If you just did a web search in English in Thailand about long-term care facilities, they tell you basically right on their website. And I can just only imagine that if you came here already and just did your own research and go talk to the place, I'm sure it's going to be either less or it will be structured a lot differently. So I just want you to take away what I've discovered. I was really taken aback what I found out about healthcare here. And stay tuned for the next set of videos because I think the most important and telling one will be these routine type of checkups. And the true cost of insurance are these kinds of things. So with that, I'm going to leave you here. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.